Former Senator Tom Daschle is now former Secretary of Health and Human Services nominee Tom Daschle. Daschle failed to pay a fairly significant portion of his taxes properly or on time. Barack Obama says he wants his administration to be all about accountability. Some of Mr. Daschle's ties to the healthcare industry were going to be a little bit of a hassle anyway, and so all in all, the nomination did not work out. Daschle had to go, and he's gone. Mr. Daschle's announcement came after another Obama nominee, Nancy Killefer, withdrew from consideration for a new job called Chief Performance Officer. She withdrew because she had left less than $1,000 in taxes unpaid for some months some years ago. The result? Wall-to-wall banner headline coverage of Barack Obama's failed nominees. Tom Daschle's name mentioned 37 times in today's White House press briefing. And the president's scheduled media blitz this evening to promote the stimulus had to start with his explanation of the speed bumps that he has hit on the road to a full cabinet.
I'm frustrated with myself, with our team, but ultimately, my job is to get this thing back on track because what we need to focus on is a deteriorating economy and getting people back to work.
So Tom Daschle had to withdraw as a nominee, as well as that other person who was going to be in that job that doesn't exist now. And this is obviously the end of the world. You know, the way that Zoe Baird was the end of the world. Oh, and Kimba Wood. Remember when that world ended too? Do you remember those names? Zoe Baird and Kimba Wood from the Clinton administration from the 90s, with the tech boom and impeachment and the government surplus and Kosovo. And remember Zoe Baird? If you said vaguely, then congratulations. You have just put today's Tom Daschle news in perspective. On the one hand, we have a picture of Tom Daschle, an embarrassed politician who has withdrawn his name as the Health and Human Services nominee. On the other hand, we have perspective. The city of Miami this week opened up 35 firefighter positions. More than 1,200 Americans showed up to apply for those 35 jobs. They camped out all weekend. How about Circuit City, going out of business, holding a job fair today for their own employees, both former and current? And how about this? This is in Austin, Texas last week. 2,000 people showing up for a job fair there, more than the organizers had ever seen. So on a day when Ford announced that its January sales were down 40%, GM is down 49%. Ford would be the one that is better off among the big three. On a day when California, the state of California, started paying its bills with IOUs instead of actual checks, why is everyone's hair on fire about Tom Daschle? As senators expressed shock and we, the media, hyperventilated about the new HHS vacancy and Tom Daschle's tax delinquency, President Obama kept his eye on the ball, turning quickly in today's interviews from a mea culpa on Daschle to the issue that matters above all right now to all of us.
We've lost 1 million jobs in the last 2 months. We can't afford another 4 million jobs lost this year. And every economist that I talk to projects that if we don't act quickly, we could end up seeing a much more severe situation than we're seeing right now.
Ah, yes, the economy, which is in free fall, and I'm not being hyperbolic. We are in an economy that is in crisis. We're in an economic crisis that requires economic life-saving measures from the government, not because of some Democratic campaign promise, not just according to liberals on TV shows, but also according to economists, just about all economists. And not just TV show liberals and economists, but governors. And not just any governors, but Republican governors, men and women whose jobs depend on how the economy goes, who have to balance budgets and lay people off. California, as I said, is now paying in IOUs. Vermont's Republican Governor Jim Douglas met with President Obama yesterday to discuss the importance of the stimulus. Other Republican governors, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, Florida Governor Charlie Crist, and Connecticut Governor Jody Rell, have all signed on to a letter to put pressure on their own party senators to get a stimulus bill passed now. And then there are those Republican senators who have decided to crusade against government spending to stimulate the economy, who have decided to crusade, in other words, against Econ 101.
This bill is enormous. It's almost $1 trillion. And as one of my colleagues has said, $1 trillion truly is a terrible thing to waste.
Rather than spending $1.3 trillion on this bill, we should be providing tax incentives that will create jobs.
Tax incentives. You know, the highest profile Republican of them all, Senator John McCain, has sent out an email to his presidential campaign's database of supporters. He's calling on Americans to say no to the stimulus, calling on people to sign a petition against the stimulus plan. The big Republican alternative is a comparatively very small bill, less than $500 billion total, about 2/3 of which is made up of tax cuts. Not because any serious economist actually thinks that tax cuts will help, that they will provide what the economy in crisis needs right now, but apparently, well, just because. You know, there are only 21 Republican governors now out of 50 states. Obama got a higher share of the popular vote than any Democrat since 1964. The Democratic majorities in Congress are, historically speaking, massive. Republicans have lost ground in state legislatures in each of the last 3 elections. The gap between the number of Americans who told the Gallup poll they are Democrats last week and the comparatively smaller number of Americans who said they are Republicans, that gap hasn't been this large in 26 years. We've got a really big crisis on our hands as a country. Is it really that important to bend over backwards to try to make the Republicans in Congress happy right now? Joining us now is MSNBC political analyst Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It's nice to see you.
Good to be with you, Rachel.
Is there a political risk for congressional Republicans to be seen as opposing the stimulus plan?
If they are perceived as being in opposition, just say no, that can be a problem. But they are offering alternatives in the Senate. They will be offering amendments in the Senate. So Republicans, and they did in the House, and so Republicans are going to be able to come away from this, those who don't vote for it, saying, I was for a different kind of stimulus if 2 years from now the stimulus